Hello guys and welcome to MK Recaps. Show the channel some love by liking and subscribing to our channel. In the heart of New York, in the middle of the day, there is a bank robbery, a perfect robbery. Because in the end, after several days of the heist, the police have no evidence of a heist, injury, or suspect. Not in fact, evidence to call it a robbery or heist. A man, Dalton Russell, says that some time ago he set in motion a perfect plan for a bank robbery. A small group of painters dressed in white overalls with caps and sunglasses. Suddenly, they locked the doors of the bank, with shots in the air. These robbers put everyone present in the bank on the floor. Then, they set fire to a smoke bomb. A street policeman who ran up to the front door, with a wild foreign accent, declares that there are hostages in the bank.
"Hey man, I lie hostages in here, and if the police intrude, I will start shooting and killing people that are all as hostage."
Detective Fraser, one of the best but with reputation problems, got into an unpleasant situation. He is accused of stealing $140,000 from the crime scene. However, he did not take anything. The drug dealer, saving his own skin, set him up to negotiate with the robbers. They teamed him up with Detective Bill, his partner, and they went to the crime scene. Mr. Arthur Casey, the owner of the bank, is informed about the attack on their branch. At first, he is not very upset, but when he is told that it is Branch 32, he immediately becomes nervous. A group of police, led by Detective Fraser, arrives and finds out that the CCTV cameras in the bank were disabled a minute before the robbery. The police do not know how many bank hostages there are, and the robbers do not know what is happening outside. Meanwhile, the robbers collect all the bank visitors and employees and make them hand over all their keys and mobile phones. They are then instructed to strip down to their underwear and put on the same blue overalls. The hostages are also required to wear special masks for their eyes, typically used for sleeping. One of the hostages becomes ill, claiming to be suffocating and having cardiac asthma. Without thinking for a long time, the robbers decide to let him go. The owner of the bank, Arthur Case, finds himself a representative with exclusive authority. Model in white, owner says that it is extremely important for him to keep the deposit box at number 392, and he preferred that no one touch it. Madeline asks to know what is there, but the CEO says that what is inside is of value exclusively to him and does not pose a danger to anyone. White reports that people with those who have to negotiate are armed, and he can't promise anything but takes up the case. Between all this, we are constantly shown scenes of interrogation of hostages that occurs after these events with the robbery.
He said, "What about Stephen and what they called you? They didn't say much about you, they just said the name."
In the meantime, the robbers are doing construction work inside the bank. Detective Fraser calls the criminal on the phone, but the gang leader does not pick up the phone. The police say that the cameras were turned off at about 10 o'clock, and for 2 minutes, they do not know who entered and left the bank. After a couple of hours, they release another hostage with a message of demands. They asked for 2 buses and a fueled plane at Kennedy Airport. The authorities have only until 9 in the evening, and if not, they will start killing 1 hostage per hour in front of the TV cameras. In the bank, syntax is laid, and they will blow it up if suddenly the police intrude. After some time, the bank doors open again, and the robbers report that 50 hungry people need food and water. The police decide to send them pizza and put a listening device in order to understand the situation inside and possibly find out something. To completely confuse the traces, the robbers put the hostages in several rooms and shuffle them from time to time, while he puts the gang members under the guise of hostages in the same overalls and masks. Having a record of the bugs that they put in the bank, they assume that these are Russians. But because they cannot understand the language used and understand what kind of language they need, a translator, who arrived at the scene, says that it's not Russian. As a result, they turn on the recording on a loudspeaker, asking people on the street who knows this language. It turns out that it's Albanian.
Albanian! I said it's Albanian 100%. They want to say that the former president of Albany is playing Big Bang and enjoying it.
Detectives don't understand that the robbers simply turned on the recording to trick them. They know that they will listen to them. Dalton, with his partner, opens that very cell, taking some documents from it. And in the meantime, the mayor of the city arrives at the detective's place. The mayor introduces Madeline White to Fraser and asks the detectives to allow her to participate in the process, reminding him of his case with a bank in Florida where $140,000 was lost during the investigation, hinting that the woman was given full powers on the spot. The detective finally gets through to the leader of the gang, and they manage to talk in person. When I will work out with her from the front door and find myself in the shower with joy. We are waiting, you understand? They will make you suck not a penny out of that bank, and you will leave empty. Dalton says that if Fraser does not give what they need by the specified time, he will need to order a hearse. By the evening, we get inside the bank thanks to the detective and communicate with the leader. It turns out that the founder of the bank made his wealth by collaborating with the Nazis during the Second World War. In the safe deposit box number 392 of the bank, there were documents testifying to his military connections, diamonds, and an exceptionally valuable ring. To get $2 million, later on, he refuses to say that he will get whatever he wants and so get out of this bank through the front door. Then Fraser is trying to find out what the conversation was about, and Madeline says that whatever he started, he would not kill. He is not a murderer. A man is not a killer until he kills someone. You never know what a person is capable of if he is driven into it. Fraser says that they are constantly trying to buy time, but understands that, in fact, the robbers themselves are dragging time. He gives them a term they do not have time for. He gives them extra time. The detective calls the bank and wants to make sure that all the hostages are alive. Having got inside and realizing that the hostages are all right, the police officer tells Dalton that there will be an assault soon. But Dalton believes that this is complete nonsense. No one will give the order for the assault until all the hostages are alive, and there is no threat to the safety of their lives. When leaving the bank, the milling cutter attacks Dalton at some point, but the accomplice manages to run up, and the fight quickly ends. After a while, Dalton calls the detective and asks to see him in the CCTV camera. The police watch them kill the hostage with a shot in the head after what happened. The head of the police department arrives at the scene and reports that the matter has gone too far. The hostage is killed with a milling cutter. They remove the authority to lead the operation and transfer him to Darius, who leads the Special Forces group. The police begin to figure out a plan for the break-in. As a result, they understand that it will be very difficult for them to understand where the robber is, where the hostages are, until they start shooting at them. And even if everything is not well planned, there will be a damn meat disaster in the end. They decide to use rubber bullets. In the morning, the milling cutter guesses that everything is wrong here, as it seems the robbers need a plane, and wonders why they were playing for time. He finds a listening device in the box with the first container, and you understand that all this time the robbers listened to the police and knew about everything. The milling cutter informs Darius that it is necessary to cancel the break-in, but unfortunately, they do not have time, and the special forces surround the main doors of the bank. At that moment, the hostages start running out, and they are all detained by the police. Inside, the police do not find absolutely anything. The robbers did not dig tunnels or anything, and nothing was missing. Besides this, it turns out that the weapons that the robbers left are toy airsoft Call of Duty machine guns, and the murder of the hostage was staged. The police do not know the hostages' faces in the bank, and the robbers actually made a smooth move by mixing with hostages. With this, the prisoners and hostages left the bank building clean, and the police can't prove anything.
We photographed everyone who left the bank, detained them, interrogated, fingerprints everywhere, and the bank is as if there was no crime at all. Forget the captain agreed that something happened and no one should require any answers from me. And I don't require them from you. Well, number 392, that the deposit for cell 392 does not exist in the list of her White. Cleanly lying.
Fraser tries to find out what Arthur Case hid in this cell and goes to Madeline White. He shows her compromising evidence on the very talking machine where the mayor blackmailed him in order to give White all the powers and carry it out inside the bank for a conversation with the leader of the robbers. Madeline says nothing to the detective except that all the conditions are met and the cutter will move up the career ladder. Charges will be dropped from him in Florida, and he will receive the promotion of detective they deserve. She says that the cases, like many rich people, have become their fortune during the war and asks him to leave this case. The model herself goes to Cilantro and tells him that the detective turned out to be very smart. She accelerated his career, and now he is under control. The bank owner is interested in where the envelope with documents is. White says that the robbers took everything from the cell. If they are blackmailed, he will just have to pay, and he will return his envelope. The owner of the bank says that everything is fine with him. However, White says that this is nonsense. The robbers left the bank without taking $1 from the vault. Therefore, the checks were for something else besides documents, and that something else, as it turns out, is diamonds and an unusually rare ring from Cartier. This ring belonged to the wife of a French banker. Arthur was a friend of this family, a family of French Jews. During the Second World War, they were sent to a concentration camp. The case could help them have huge connections. However, according to him, the Germans are well paid. Arthur Case sold his soul by taking too closely the phrase of Baron Rothschild that said, "When blood is shed on the street, it is time to buy up property."
How to explain that the robber disappeared? Are you asking me? I should be asking you this because this is your bank. I can't even imagine why I wasted my time. Afraid I can't help you.
Meanwhile, at the request of the detectives, the bank's razor opens cell 2. But it turns out to be empty, except for a chewing gum and a ring with a note left by the tone, "Follow the ring." However, the plan of the robbers was that Dalton Russell, the leader of the bank building, remained inside. The robbers slightly rebuilt the back room of the bank and organized a secret shelter there, where he remained for a week. The rest of the criminals, mixed with other hostages, left the bank building clean. After a week, he got out of his shelter in the bank. Normal work was already restored, mingling with bank visitors. Dalton calmly exited through the front door, as promised to the detective. And he ran into the freezer and domain at the same time with the detectives who just came to check cell number 392. "How are you going to get out of here?" "I will go out through the front door." Something else. The result is a perfect robbery in which there is no evidence of no victims, no money stolen. The case itself is closed. The robbers got their way by pulling out diamonds and documents from the cell that, at any time, will help them get almost any amount of money. And the owner of the bank, Arthur Case, will never declare disappearing, avoiding the eyes of your past in order to save your reputation. In the last moment of the film, we are shown how Fraser comes home where his girlfriend is waiting for him. He finds a Dalton diamond in his pocket when he enters the bank, as if he knew that he would run into a detective, and threw a stone into his pocket as proof. Earlier, when Fraser entered the bank during a heist, the detective told Dalton that he has a girlfriend. He wants to marry her. However, he is poor. Miller asked the ringleader if he should also rob a bank to improve his life. To which Dalton answered him that money is not the main thing, which, as a result, we see in the end, the money was not the main thing. For what they put pressure on the phrase had two meanings: the answer to Fraser's question, what the robber seeks, and the answer to his story about the poverty of love.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more from MK Recaps. See you next time.